back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sonia, a self-taught designer, hand letterer, and illustrator. We can also connect on Instagram, just drawing words. In today's video, I brought you another lettering tutorial. Specifically, I'm gonna walk you through how to create a beveled lettering, the lettering that looks something like this. I'm gonna walk you through from sketch process all the way to using 2 colors, 3 colors, and 4 colors on these lettering. Also, I'm gonna share a little bonus tip at the end, so make sure you watch all the way through. If this is something that interests you, keep on watching. Okay, so the first step is to draw the sketch. So I'm gonna show you 2 ways to do this. I'm using Procreate software on my iPad Pro. This is not a requirement. You could do it on pen, paper, or any software you wish to do. The method is the same. So the first way on the top, I'm just gonna freehand it. The second way is I already lettered this and I'm gonna draw it on top of it. So I'll show you both ways. So the first one on the top, I just have a guideline for me to draw. But the very first step you need to do is I'm gonna just create a separate layer on top of this guideline. All you need to do is draw what I call it a bones or skeleton. So that's the first step of the sketch. So for example, I lettered the word brain here. I'm just gonna rewrite it here. So I'm gonna just draw within the guideline, like the letter B, something like that. Okay. And then just make sure, I'm just gonna raise this a little bit. Make sure you have enough space between the letters because we're gonna make this thick, as you can see. So just go ahead and continue drawing that. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So that's done. So this, what I call it, a skeleton or a bone. Now the second step is we're gonna draw a line outside, what I call it like an outer line, like here, outside of the skeleton, which I call it a outer line. And then we are going to draw the line inside the bones, so which I like to call it a inner line. So that's what we're gonna do. So around the letter, we are going to draw the outer line outside of the skeleton or the bones. Okay, I think skeleton is a better word. Like so. And then we're gonna draw a line inside, I call it an inner line, inside the skeletons. So again, this is our skeleton right here. And then we're gonna draw a line inside, like this. So that's all we're gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and do for the rest of the letters. Oh, one thing to remember before I move on is the only thing you have to be careful when you're drawing this outer line and the inner line is that the distance from the skeleton to the outer line, this distance here, and then the distance from the skeleton to the inner line, this distance has to be the same. That's the only rule you want to remember. That's how it's, you have to do that in order to make your letter more clean. Okay, so just remember your outer line, the distance here and the distance here has to be the same. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and draw it for the rest of the the rest of the letters. Okay, I am just gonna clean up a bit so these lines are all straight. So I'm just gonna go ahead, I'm gonna erase this now. And then I'm just gonna now adjust my guidelines I had. I'm just gonna do that so I know it should be straight. Also, I talked about the spacing. This is why we need to have enough space. I'm gonna just move this R a little bit. And then make sure everything aligns. So I'm just gonna make those adjustments really quick. Now the next step is we're gonna draw additional lines. What I mean by, so the rule of where to draw the lines is really the corner edges. So what I mean by that, I'll just go ahead and create a separate layer to show you this. Okay, so all the edges here, here. You see the edges. You see where the corner is? That's where the line has to go. So like these places. I'm gonna start with the easiest one, which is the eye, and then I'll do it throughout. So again, the edges will be here, the corners, right? So this is where the line's gonna be. And then the outer line has to meet with the bone, the edges of the bone or the corner. So it'll be, in this case, it'll be just these two. Let me just erase this real quick. So I just think of it as a rule, and it always applies in any situation. So this is where the line has to go. So it's like connecting the dots. So the corner of the outer line, corner of the inner line, in this case we don't have an inner line, but this logic applies the same again. Corner of the outer lines and the inner lines has to meet with the corner of the skeleton or the bones. So here I told you this is the edges, so we're gonna meet right here, like so. To do it like that and like this. Okay, let's do this one. The less curved ones, the geometric one is a lot easier. So again, my corners will be here for the outer line, right? Da-da, da-da. In this case, I don't have an inner line either, so we're just gonna focus on the corners of the bone, and then the line has to meet. It's like connecting the dots. Like this. Like this, and then this has to meet with here, like that, and then same thing. Here's a corner of the outer line, the corner of the bone, and that's where the line lies. Okay, I'm gonna go to A. Same thing. There is an inner line here, but there's no curve, so it's a little bit easier. Again, outer side, outer corners here, and then those are the corners of the bone. And then we have an inner ones. So again, same concept. Outside, meeting to the bone, here, and then the bone to the inner, the corner here, 3 corners here. See that? So this, again, this logic always apply. I would have to adjust this a little bit because it doesn't look as nice. I think this is way too thick, but you get the idea. I'm gonna go ahead and change this a little bit. I think it ended up, yeah, this one wasn't. Adjusted. Because remember, you always want to keep the distance from here to here the same. So that's why I'm just making some adjustments here. But again, you don't have to, I mean, the sketch, it's good that your sketch is nearly perfect, but it doesn't really have to be, but you try to do that. So again, this distance and this distance has to be similar. So that's good enough. Okay, so something like that. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the curved one. So R has a little bit of curve, but again, same logic applies. The corners here to the corner of the skeleton here. So once you start practicing this, you see the theme where how it's gonna look on the bottom, right? But I'm just trying to explain the logic, so if you ever get confused, that's how you figure out where to draw the lines. So here's a corner, and then here's the corner of your bone. Same thing here, that'll be your corner. Here, that'll be your corner. And then from the inner line to the skeleton, inner line to the skeleton. Now the question is, well, where do you draw the line for this curved area? There is no corner lines per se. So the way I like to think of it, oh, it's not here. The way I like to think of it is to mirror what you see on the left side. So in this case, I would probably draw a line somewhere over here because it's gonna mirror the left side. That's what I like to think of it. Same thing here. If there's I try to balance it, and then I would probably draw a line somewhere here. Okay, now let's do the B. Same concept. We just have 2 curved lines. We're gonna do the same thing as what we did for R. We have the corners. We're gonna connect the dots where you see the corner here, here, and then we have here That's another one. But what do we do with the curves one? We always mirror what's on the left side, or if it's on the right side, vice versa. But typically there's the geometric shape on the left side most of the case. So I'm just gonna go ahead and mirror this to here to balance it out. Same thing. Like this. Something like that. And then you could do this. I think you could always search up. For me too, when I practice, I look up, because they have this kind of a font style. Everybody does it slightly differently, so I wouldn't say there is rule of thumb of how you should do it. So you could always look up for examples if you ever get confused, but for me, that's how I like to think of it, because I don't want to always go back and look at it. But general concept is connecting the dots. Now for curves, everybody does this a little bit slightly differently depending on the style, but I like to just do it as a mirror effect. So this is the way to just start from scratch and draw the bone. Now, if you are not too confident or this may seem challenging to you, the other way to do it is just have the letters typed in already or drawn already. In this case, I hand drew this one, but you can totally use a font. Just again, the rule is you want to find a font that's kind of mono weight like this, and it has a lot of spacing so that we could account for, again, as I mentioned, we could account for the bone and also account for the distance from the bone to the outer line and to the inner line. So as long as it meets the requirement, you can just type it up. Like in Procreate, for example, you could add text. So you can go ahead and do that. So again, in this case, I hand lettered this already, and I'm gonna show you how to do this way. So same concept, it already has a guideline, so it's a little bit more easier, I find. You could just go ahead but do the same thing. So we're gonna draw the bone first, and we're kind of going the opposite way. So instead of focusing on the outer and the inner line, because in this case it's kind of already there for you, you just have to focus on drawing the bone. I mean the skeletons. So what you do is you want to just draw in between. Same idea. This will be considered your outer line, and then this would be considered your inner line. So considering that, you just have to make sure the distance between your skeleton, again, as I mentioned, the skeleton has to be the same distance from the outer line to here and the inner line to the skeleton. That's all the rule you have to remember, just like how we did this one, except that we're starting from a skeleton first for this one, but this one we're kind of using the font or the lettering as a guide already. So what I'm gonna do is now just draw the bone. Just make sure you follow that rule, and that's it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that for all of them. Okay, something like this. And I'm gonna erase this. But you're essentially doing the same thing. Now you're gonna use this as a guide to draw the outer line and the inner line. Like so. You just have to trace it. So it makes it a lot easier than you drawing it yourself, obviously. And the rest is exactly the same. We're gonna connect the dots again, just like how we did on the top part. So I'm just gonna skip this step because it's gonna be exactly the same. Again, you just look at the corners and then you just connect. The only difference for the second method is you're not starting out from scratch. You have a guideline, so it's a little bit more easy for beginners if you're just starting out. Okay, so that's the sketch phase, and we're gonna move on to coloring. Okay, now the next step is to color them. As I shown at the beginning of the video, you could either use 2 colors, 3 colors, or 4 colors. Obviously, the more colors you use, the more depth dimension you're gonna have. So you're gonna pick and choose how you wanna do this, but if you're not sure at the beginning whether how many colors you're gonna use, then this is how you should plan it. So you're gonna pick a main color, and when you do pick that color, I recommend you picking something that's not too dark or something not too white. You want to kind of be in the middle. It's okay to be a little bit of the lighter side or the darker side, but nothing that's too dark. that it's more closer to the black color, or something that's not too light, that's closer to the white color. And you see what I mean. So in this case, again, I'm gonna show you using total of 4 colors. So I'm gonna start, so I'm gonna show you how I pick these. So the main color is gonna be this one. Oops. Okay, I'm just gonna show you here. So this is gonna be your main color. So I picked kind of like a lighter purple color as my main color. And then from there, you're gonna choose 2 shades to the right. So this obviously is the darkest. And then you're gonna choose something that's more close to the white. You could possibly use white, but I think it's better, it blends better if it's slightly less white, but you're gonna have the lightest over here. Again, there's many ways you could do beveled lettering. Sometimes they choose more like a popping color, contrasting color. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I want to show you more kind of like blending colors like this one. So again, that's how you choose the color. You have a main color here. I want this to be my base. That's going to be my base color. And then from there, 1 shade darker plus 1, and then about 2-3 shades dark on this side. So this is going to be your darkest color. Think of it as the darkest part of the shadow. And this is gonna be the lightest, where the light is gonna hit. So that's all you need, how you need to prepare your color palette. Here I cleaned up the sketch, and here's my color palette. So as you remember, we are starting with this as my main color, and I use that color as a base. If you're only using 2 colors, then you're gonna use the one shade darker as kind of like a shadow. So we're gonna have a base and a shadow. So it's a little bit more simplified, and you would notice as I'm coloring through, some lines are not really gonna matter, but it will come into play when we do more colors. So just know that. So when you are, again, using just one more color, which is pretty simple, here I have a sketch layer that to show you, and then I have a base layer, right? So I already colored the words in the base color, and all you're gonna do, and this is the easiest way I think of it. Again, people does it a little bit differently, and you can always find examples in Pinterest or whatnot, but this is how I like to do it. So again, we're using this darker color as a shadow. So I'm gonna go ahead and color it where the shadow lies, and typically, and again, if this is a little bit challenging for you, another good way to think of it is, and this is assuming that the light is coming from this side, but the left side, you're gonna color the right side like this. So the left side of it. And then you're gonna color in here, and then you're gonna color the right side out here too. Like that. So sometimes it's, I mean, again, with practice, it gets better, but if you're just confused, think of it kind of like this way. So I like to think of it as right side, right? So if I were to apply that logic, I would do right side of the bar and then the right side of this bar. Because again, if you imagine the light is coming this way, typically that's where the shadow is gonna lie. And then after that, after you do the right side, the bottom part is always kind of shadowy, so you could color the bottom part like that. So that's and then for the inner side, it's gonna be, light will be probably hit here, so it'll be on this side. So something that goes, so if this is confusing to you, within those lines, it'll be on the bottom one. You see how it's a right and then on the bottom. So that's kind of the logic you could use. Again, not all lines gonna come into play when we're using 2 colors. So again, we're just trying to make it simple as possible for a 2-color version, but these lines will come into play when we add more colors to it. So I'm gonna use that same logic one more time just to demonstrate how it could have like a pattern. So it's not, so for example, if you don't have an example to look at and you're confused, you can always think of it, okay, from this 2 side, it's gonna be the right side, right? I told you it's the right side. And then always the bottom. And then from here, it's always gonna be the bottom too, the middle part. You see that? So it's kind of like filling in the block. And then this is the easiest. There's only one, so right side, and then the bottom. So that logic applies. So it's just the easiest way I can teach you guys how to do this. Right side, bottom, bottom. Now, this is a little tricky because we have kind of like this middle thing. I like to just even out the color because if I were to do here, which possibly you can, but I don't think you get good contrast for the whole thing. If I were to, let's say, get rid of this, I find it better if it's on this side. And I'm thinking if the light is coming this way, most likely the shadow will be more on this side. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. So and for this one, it will most likely makes more sense to just put it on this side. And it gets a good evened out shadows. And then thinking from light perspective, I think that looks better. Okay, so we have that. That's the first, that's gonna be one color. I'll show you the end product of this. It should look something like this. So more simple, but you still get that 3D kind of dimension looking like that. So this is our just 2 colors, right? So if you want to do 3 colors, so remember we used this as our base color, and then this is if we add one more, so total of 2 colors, right? So we're doing that one. If you want to use total of 3 colors, we're gonna use the darkest one. So we're gonna add an extra layer of shadow on the shadow we already applied. So let me go back and turn in my sketch layer here. So this is the sketch we had. And this is when the line, oh, actually this line is not gonna come into play, but the other lines that we didn't use on using 2 colors is gonna come into play. So what we're gonna do is, again, from the 2 colors already, you're just gonna add additional. So where are you gonna add it? Is going to be, I'm just gonna create another layer. So I'm gonna choose this color now, it's the darkest color. And you're gonna use it to the area that should be even darker. So the easiest way I like to think of it is the bottom part is more darker. So bottom, bottom, bottom. You see, initially on the first, initially on 2 colors, we didn't really separate them. We just followed that logic of right, right, down, down, right? But now we're gonna just focus on the down part. Here, down here, down here, down here, down here. Okay, same thing. I don't know if you can see it that well. Down here, and then down here. I will show you the end result after, and just the down part here. Bottom part. Now this is a little optional. If you feel like there's really no place to add, you don't have to. If you feel like you want to add something extra, you could. I think I end up doing this, but that's not really a requirement. Anything that you think it looks good. So that's gonna be using 3 colors in total. So if I were to show you the end product, it will look something like, so I'm gonna get rid of all this. It'll look something like this. So you see that we still have the first shadow, and then now we just added the second shadow. So the last part of adding one more is adding the lightest one. So it's gonna be the highlight. So if you see the theme, the concept wise is pretty simple. We have a base color. For 2 colors, we're just using 1 shadow. For 3 colors, we're using the extra shadow, like extra dark part. And then for 4 colors, we're adding the highlight. So we're gonna go with the lighter color here. So now we're just gonna focus on the top. Okay, so this is what we have so far. We have the first color, second color, other than the base, and then you're just gonna focus on the top. Oh, okay, so I don't know if you can see this well, but let me add here. And again, I selected this color, right? And then the top portion is gonna be, and again, this is where that extra line is gonna come into play up here. So again, just the top portion. That's all you need to focus on. Top, 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 top. That's all you need to do. And voila, this is how it looks. Okay, this is just a little bonus tip. If you watch it this far, I'm just gonna give you a little bit extra to make this even stand out even more. This is just using the 3 colors. So it's not 4 color, this is 3 color. But there's another way you can make it a little bit pop other than using the highlight. So I just wanna show you that really quick. It's really simple, only maybe takes a minute or two. So I thought it was like fun to share this. So all you need to do is add this highlight. Instead of adding at that area that we sketched out, we're gonna add it on the skeleton. So I'm gonna show you what happens when I do that. So just drawing this extra line, you see that right here on the skeleton area, just makes it instantly pop. I'm gonna show you one more time. Maybe I'll do this so you guys can see it. So this is not having anything, right? Not having, just having 3 colors, but if you just add that, you see that how it pops instantly. So I like to use this trick sometimes instead of using that extra color. You could possibly do that on top of this too, but I feel like this is a little bit more effective when you do this with 3 colors. I think that stands out. Yeah, and I thought it'll be fun to share this little simple and easy trick. Okay, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss any of these videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!